Okay.
All right, this is an interview at the Bethlehem Public Library, Delmar, New York. It is the 23rd of June, 2006, approximately 1 p.m. The interviewers are Wayne Clark and Mike Russert. Could you give me your full name, your date of birth, and place of birth, please?
My full name is Melvin C. Kelley, K-E-L-L-E-Y. I was born in Rochester, Pennsylvania, and I was born 9/20, 9/9/22.
Okay. What was your education prior to entering the service?
High school.
High school, okay. Do you remember where you were when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Yes, I do.
Could you tell us about it?
Well, I had to go get bread at the local store, and they saw it, or heard it on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And I was informed that this had taken place.
Did you have any idea where Pearl Harbor was at the time?
Not exactly.
Mm-hmm. What were your feelings when you heard this?
I felt very sad about the whole situation. Knowing what I know now, I can see the reason for it, and the fact that they had been cut off from oil, and you know, I watch the History Channel a lot, so I know quite a bit about the.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted.
Why did you enlist?
I enlisted, frankly, I just felt as though it was my duty.
Mm-hmm. Why did you pick the Navy?
I love the water. I spent one whole summer at the pool, and I knew I could swim. Matter of fact, I've been a lifeguard since being out of the service.
Okay.
From one area.
All right. Had anyone in your family ever been in the Navy, or?
No.
Okay. Where did you go for your basic training?
I went to Great Lakes boot camp.
How long were you there?
5 weeks.
What?
We used broom handles for guns. That's all they had there.
So you went in, you said September of 42.
Correct. September the 9th.
All right.
10th, I'm sorry, 10th.
How about, did you have enough uniforms and so on to go around at that time?
Yes, pretty much so.
What was were you ever away from home prior to that?
None other than the family had. We took quite a few trips.
But it always as a family. This is your first time alone?
Correct.
How did you feel? And
boot camp, I didn't tolerate it as well as I probably should. We did a tremendous amount of marching. There wasn't much teaching. There was an awful lot of marching, I guess, to get us in shape. And I had passed out when they took blood. And they checked me a couple weeks later. I had to go back to the doctor's office, and they said that I guess I was all right.
Okay. Where did you go from Great Lakes?
I went home on leave, 9-day leave, and then went back to Great Lakes and was transferred to Treasure Island, California. Had a Pullman car with all the trimmings. They treated us like kings.
What did you do out at Treasure Island?
It was a receiving ship, and my records were shipped to Pearl Harbor, but for some reason or other, whether it was a mistake made by a yeoman or someone, I found my name on the list. 2000. We're going to be shipped overseas. We didn't know where we were going.
So you didn't have any training outside of your basic?
That's correct.
Were you to receive like on-the-job training on the ship?
This was we went on President Polk. We zigzagged clear down to New Caledonia. Took 19 days, and we had an escort of it had a plane on the end that went out and searched for submarines. Uh, it was a, what do you call them? Cruiser. We arrived there in New Meh. That's where all the officers were. They were carrying on the war. We were on a train. They put us on a train. We went back inland. We were there about 2 weeks, and then we were reassigned. We were hauled back to the port and placed aboard the Triad, which was a transport. And we went from New Man, New Caledonia to Esprit de Santos, New Hebrides. You can see those places on the map if you
Did
wish.
you receive in between any kind of specialized training?
No training whatsoever. When we got to New Meh, I was assigned to the Amphibious. Then I started getting my training. I was trained to operate the LCVPs, Higgins boats. And from there I was there probably, well, I ended up on Guadalcanal on the 1st of March, or around the 1st of March. It came and got us in the middle of the night. It was probably 2 or 3 in the morning. Told us to pack up. And we were supposed to leave. One of the fellows that was there had a rifle, an old-fashioned rifle. He says, "You're going to need."
What was it, 03?
Pardon?
The old 03?
Yeah, yes. And I can't think for the life of me, I can't think of the name. It started with an M. It was another transport that made all the invasions. This transport had a tremendous speed. You could hear those motors winding you all the way up. It didn't take us long to get up there. They called that area Torpedo Junction because there's so many ships sunk there through the Japanese submarines. We had a torpedo miss us by about 40 feet off of this back end. And when we finally arrived there, we arrived there at night, and they were having an air raid there at the time, so we went back out to sea and circled all night and come back in the following day. And we were in the process of being unloaded. They were dropping us down into the water with it was the next size. It wasn't a Higgins boat, but it was larger. It was made out of steel. And we had another air raid, and they just dropped us off in a hurry and took off, zigzagged out of the harbor. Well, we went on in. We didn't see anything. Nothing happened. Although when we got close to shore, we could hear them fighting up on the mountain, up in the hill. There was a lot of noise pertaining to firing.
Now
That was after the war was declared won. Now keep in mind that this was in February. They informed the people that they had won the Guadalcanal.
Now, the Higgins boat you were in, the fronts didn't drop down?
Yes.
Oh, they did?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Our duty was to haul supplies from ship to shore. The heavy transports would come up from Australia, delivering supplies, equipment.
And then you take them into the beaches?
You take them into the beaches.
Could you describe how many in your boat? How big of a crew were you?
Well, there wasn't men. It was mostly supplies.
But I mean, the crew that took the boat, the Higgins boat in, how many were in the crew? Yourself and?
Well, it was only the ones that they wanted to stay on the island. We stayed right on the island.
Oh, okay.
And they found out that I was good in art. So they needed those Higgins boats. They had them all anchored out. Ships would come in and drop off the Higgins boats. They'd have different numbers on them. So they decided I'd be better I could paint the re-letter the boats. They gave me a list of numbers that they wanted on the boats, and I changed the numbers on the boats to the correct numbers. Probably saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I got one raid after another. I made a raid every month, up to staff sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
It was sort of dangerous with the car. There were a lot of sharks around. I had to jump from, they'd haul me out, and then I would jump from one boat to the next, to the boat that I was going to letter.
Now, did you have
And they'd
to
come and pick me up.
did you have to hang over the sides when you were painting the numbers on
Yes,
them?
yes. And we had air raids. Every time the moon was up, we got attacked at night. And we had 3 or 4 air raids during the day, which were very severe. One in particular, it's mentioned in this book. 500 Japanese planes come in. It was right after the Henderson Field was located real close to us. And Henderson Field would be the place where the P-38s would take off to go up and bomb. And they, on April the 7th, they shot down a plane that had the admiral of the whole fleet. I've got his name here.
Was it Yamamoto?
Yamamoto. And right after that, we had a terrible air raid. We had 500 planes come through. And I was sort of an individualist. Maybe it was best that I did go into painting, lettering. I happened to be on the beach, and another fellow was on the beach wearing a foxhole, and the planes come down, and it was horrible. And I don't know what got into me. I don't know why I did it. I have no idea why, what happened, but I grabbed my friend, and we went out and got a boat off of the pier and drove the boat out and picked up 2 pilots who had been shot down. 2 P-38 pilots. And they, we asked them where they wanted to go. They didn't seem to be hurt. They said they wanted to go to the hospital ship. So we took them over to the hospital ship and dropped them off. And when we went back in, the boat that we took happened to be the captain's boat. And he was very angry. And we got pretty well scolded out.
Even though you...
He had no idea that we'd saved two pilots.
Uh-huh.
And whether the Air Corps ever informed them, I don't know, but things seemed to go downhill after that.
Uh-huh.
They brought up, he finally left, they brought up another Voorhees, I remember that name so plainly, from Australia to take over. He was supposed to be a very stern, very strict person. But before that, we could pretty much do what we pleased, you know, as long as you did your job and didn't, you know, give them any problems. There was an awful lot of malaria. A lot of malaria and a lot of yellow jaundice.
Did you ever have any illnesses
They
wounds or
sent me to the
injuries?
hospital. I was passed out, and they sent me to the hospital, and they claimed it was malaria, a light case of malaria. And they couldn't. My heart was, I mentioned, I think, was it you or one of you? My heart was irregular, beating irregularly. So, but this Captain Voorhees decided to take a winch off a Japanese ship. There were two Japanese ships beached on the beach, and he decided to take the winches. You know, the winches are the cranes, like. And he decided to take the winches off of there, and he went down with a group 24, more than that, it was about 27, I guess, 28. He went down to take off the winches, and P-38s came back from Bougainville. They couldn't drop their bombs, they got chased back. So the pilots decided to practice bomb the Japanese ship. They killed 24 men out of the outfit. And that was never reported. And those parts maybe should be cut out. I don't know. But anyway, bombing was an occurrence, and rats, the place was full of rats. I think I'd mentioned that. One of you probably heard about the rats. I woke up one night with something on my ear, and a rat was chewing my earlobe. And
I remember you telling this
yeah.
story.
And it went down and sat on my stomach. They were so tame. They sat on my stomach, and then we put in a big pail of water, and we put in a seesaw, and they would climb out on the board and then drop off into the water and drown. I came back to the States.
Can I ask you a couple of things?
Yes.
How were relationships like within your unit? Did you have a good unit? The men, how they get along well together? So on?
Yes, seemed to get along very well together. Anytime, all I had to do was wave my hand, and they'd come and pick me right up and take me out, and tell me, you know, I knew where to be dropped off because I had the numbers. They were very cooperative, no problem.
How about with your equipment? Did you have, I don't know if you were involved that much with the boats, with repairs and so on?
Yes.
Did they need repairs
Yes,
often?
they
or?
brought them up coral reefs.
Mm-hmm.
They were wooden. The Higgins boats were wooden. Quite often, oh God, I forgot what I was going to say. Can you cut that off?
Okay, so putting them on the beach damaged the
It would
bottom,
damage the
so they had to
bottom.
be
And
repaired.
they had carpenters. They had to give me a carpenter's rating because they didn't have a painter's rating. I finally got it changed before I left.
Uh-huh.
Not Guadalcanal, but before I left the Navy, they switched me. They reassigned me. After I came back to the States, I was in a hospital a short time. And they sent me to Philadelphia Navy Yards, and from there they sent me down to Miami for training, for I went to sub-chasing trainers center. I was there about 3 or 4 weeks. Again, I didn't receive much training other than going out and learning how to abandon ship after I'd been overseas. Now this after I'd come back.
And the war was over at that point?
No, the war was still on, very much so.
Okay.
This was in 44, 45. And I was then assigned to an auxiliary tug rescue. Now, maybe I was assigned to a rescue because of saving those 2 fellows. Maybe it was reported. I don't know. But I was assigned to a seagoing tug. It was a seagoing tug which was being built in Manitowoc, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And from there, we were supposed to be in on the invasion of Normandy, but they didn't get the ship completed. The ship was 2 months before they didn't get it finished till August.
Okay.
And we brought the ship through the lakes down to St. Lawrence, Panama Canal, went down to Trinidad, South America. And then then we towed a dry dock barge up to Panama Canal, but we had to leave it off. They had to turn that big floating dry dock on its side to get it through the canal because the canal was so narrow. And we picked up a PT boat on the other side and towed it on up to San Diego. From San Diego, we went to Hawaii, and we worked out of there for a month and a half.
How did that handle out in the ocean?
What,
The tug?
tug, 164 feet, there was only 54 men aboard. It was made out of wood. That's what saved us. I'll tell you the story later. We went through a typhoon, 170-mile-an-hour typhoon. And we were towing at that time. I think they were going to China because we were supposed to go to Shanghai from Philippines. And we got in the typhoon. We were towing a floating hotel, not hotel, supply ship, and we lost it. 90 men on there and drowned. And they never mentioned anything about that either. And we almost, our motor, something got caught in the motor, in the screw that turns the ship, and shut off our, it was like riding a roller coaster for about 3 days.
So you had,
We'd go up high, and then when we come down, we'd slap the bottom. And then we'd climb back up, and this went on for three days before we finally got out. We had to turn around, and when we turned around, the highest ever recorded was 67 degrees, and we were 65 degrees. We rolled over on the side.
so you had to cut the one boat loose so you wouldn't be sunk also?
No, it broke loose.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, I had the job. I was supposed to throw a lever in the back in case the reel started going out. It was a cable, a large cable. And all of a sudden it broke loose from the back of the tug and started swinging across the whole back deck. Finally, sparks were flying. Finally, it broke loose. And that was the end. We never saw it again. So it broke in half. It was cement, made out of cement, broke in half. And they had planes out looking for us. We ended up at Subic Bay and back in the Philippines, declared unseaworthy.
Now, did your tug have a number or a name or?
ATR 88, I got a picture of it. Where's the picture? I brought a picture here. There's the back end of the...
Okay, if you hold it up in front of you, I can focus in
Yeah.
on it.
Now, are you in that picture somewhere?
I'm in some picture now. This one, I had 4 or 5 of them. I don't know where the other ones are. Okay,
Okay, got it.
now let's see. Now I get back. You got it. Yeah, I don't know. That's the back end. There's 3 or 4 other pictures. I don't know where they are.
So that tug didn't last too long then?
Well, the war ended while we were in the Philippines. They dropped the atomic bombs, and we were scheduled to go up to Okinawa, which we did. 3 days later, after the war was over, we went up to Okinawa, and believe it or not, we had an air raid there, supposedly. At least they had a scare. But then we went back to the Philippines, and that was probably a month and a half later, we went through that typhoon.
Was that the one off Okinawa that you?
That was, no, that typhoon was, well, that typhoon might have ended up in Okinawa. What's the name of that other island that's not China, they're Chinese on it?
Oh, Formosa?
Formosa. It was off Formosa.
Okay.
And we went to dry dock in the Philippines. And a lot of the fellows left, they had enough points.
Mm-hmm.
But I had enough points too, but I don't know, I wanted to come back with the ship, I guess. So I had good duty aboard there. It was very easy duty. I had to stand watch, 4 on and 8 off. I steered the ship a lot. Captain always had me steer the ship into port. I had good coordination.
Mm-hmm.
I think it pertained to art, probably pertained to. But he always called me up to bring the ship through the channel. And we ended up back 2 days before we got to San Diego. There was another tug with us. He was coming back, and the fellow signalman was signaling to our ship, and we hit a wave, and he flew over the side and drowned. And again, the captain called me up to try to locate him, and I was circling around all over. You know, he was giving orders from the wing of the ship. So many degrees left rudder, so many degrees right rudder, so on, but we never found him. Drowned. he was down, he just come back from he was down getting his clothes ready to go on leave.
Is there any person or persons that you remember that you looked up to or you remember best while you were in service? Did you make any close friends that?
Not so much, because I didn't stay with one group. In other words, I was assigned, I made friends with a couple on board the tug, because I was on there quite a while. And one fellow was a radio man aboard there, and we used to go on leave when we went to these, like we stopped at Nicaragua, Corinto, Nicaragua, on the way up, Mexico, Manzanilla, Mexico. Another fellow there that I was friendly with up in Manitowoc. I was in Manitowoc about 4 months. We went up there in March, April, May, June, July, and August. Oh gosh, 6 months. I lived in, they gave me subsistence for living in private home, and they gave me a good subsistence for meals. So while they were building the ship, we had to meet every day. I was supposed to go around and check, make sure they weren't painting over any rust. Only the ship was made out of wood. There was some steel on it naturally, but not very much.
When did you return to the States?
I was discharged January the 19th of 46.
Do you remember where you were when President Roosevelt died?
Yes, I do. I remember very clearly we were in the middle of the Pacific, and I felt so bad that that was the first time that it had steak in probably a couple months, and I couldn't eat.
How about, how did you feel when you heard about the dropping the atomic bombs? Did you have a reaction with that at all? Or?
Not so much one way or the other. I was just happy the war was over.
Okay. Did you ever attend any USO shows?
No, never. There was never any, Guadalcanal, there wasn't any shows. And aboard ship, as strange as it may seem, when we were in Okinawa, now this is 3 days after the war's over, 3 or 4 days after the war's over, we went aboard another ship to see a movie. And the name of the movie was National Velvet. We got halfway through, and there was a siren, and we had to go back to our own ship, but it was a false alarm. Of course, the war was over. They must have thought someone was, I don't know what the reason was.
Did you did you use the GI Bill when you returned home?
I did. Got me right through school. I had enough credit hours for 5 years.
So that's where you went to for your teaching.
Right.
And did you use the 5220 club at all?
Yes.
Max it out?
No, I didn't max it out. I used it a little bit in the summer. But usually I worked in the summer, where I went to school and took courses. I started out as an Indian. The church was the one that got me into college, Lutheran church. The minister, I had a good rapport with the minister. And he sent me to Teal College, which was engineering, well, pre everything. 2 weeks after school started, I'd started already. They took me in, and I was there 2 years, and I took an art course there, and that was the end. I had it. That's all it was to it. I was sold, and I ended up going to an art school up in Edinburgh. It was an art school at that time. Primarily an art school.
Did you ever join any veterans organizations?
I joined the American Legion when I arrived home, but I was only there a short while. I belong to the American Legion and the VFW now. Although I don't attend, and I'm not, I haven't lived here that long, but my neighbor told me about the VFW up at Colony, is it Colony? Back on, what is that, 55, around 55?
155?
155. And, but I signed up there and paid once, and I don't know, they went 100% active members, so they put me down every time. I haven't paid them in my years. Now, the American Legion, I'm very active in the American Legion here in Delmar. I play shuffleboard. I go there quite often. It's a nice bunch, nice group.
Now, I think you already answered this. You never stayed close to anyone or stayed in contact with anyone that was in service with you?
After I left, no,
Yeah,
I didn't.
yeah.
I tried once. I tried this Loby. His name was Loby. He lived in Chicago. The Depression, I guess he was very well off at one time. In the Depression, he had his father had all the money and stocks. And I went to see if I could find him, and I had the address, and I knocked on the door, and the lady come to the door, she says, I never heard of him. I don't know. So, in the meantime, something.
How do you think your time in the service changed or had an effect in your life?
I think it had a tremendous effect on my life.
In what ways?
And a desire to improve myself.
Do you think
I would never have gone to college
That's my question, okay.
if it hadn't been for the GI Bill. My parents weren't that well off. My dad was a tool and die maker, but they pretty much froze the salaries during the war, or the pay. And I had no trouble getting through the GI Bill. I do a lot of painting now. I paint. I've sold a number of paintings. I've had shows at different areas. Hunter Mountain gave me a show. I exhibited down in Woodstock, and she sold quite a number of my paintings. Ann Leonard Gallery in Woodstock. She retired.
What type of painting do you do?
Landscaping.
Okay.
Like mostly landscape. Well, different types. Things. I experiment. I think it's because of the engineering background. I have a tendency of not staying with one thing. I try different methods, different things.
Well, thank you very much for your interview.
I think it's going to be horrible.
Oh, no, you did a great job.